Hello, lovely podcast people. Long time no speak. So, this podcast has been a really long time coming. As the title suggests, I'm going to talk about basically the only study I'm aware of that has directly done this, compare GLP-1s, a huge topic at the minute. We're talking about weight loss injections versus an aggressive diet type modality for weight loss in patients with type 2 diabetes specifically. So super interesting study. This study was actually done at the University of Nottingham, which is just down the road from us here at MNU HQ. And when this came out, I was fairly buzzed, not to ruin the punchline, but the very favorable or interesting impacts shown with an aggressive diet type protocol versus something that is obviously a complete game changer. And before, I guess I have considered doing a standalone podcast on GLP-1s to add my own take on the subject, because I sadly still see people who are quote unquote influenced by me. Maybe some people studying MNU, maybe, people who I know respect me, having really crappy takes on the area of GLP-1s. I know some people who follow me. I did a post on Instagram, and this is how I know this. Some people who follow me are still so clueless. And I guess that's good, because it means I'm hopefully going to reach people who really need an update on their understanding and education of things around nutrition, things around obesity. But I did a post basically saying, if we pitted a GLP-1, semaglutide versus an aggressive diet protocol, which one would win? And the range of comments on that, one, shows that people haven't done their reading on GLP-1s despite having seemingly very strong opinions at times. And likewise, I clearly am not doing a very good job of making people understand what an aggressive diet is. And obviously that's a term really that I think I have pioneered, and really if anyone hears that, they think of me. And there's lots of other types of protocols that people would maybe that mean much the same. We're not just talking about a crash diet. We're not talking about a fad diet. We're not talking about the maple syrup diet, or which I think that was Beyonce, was it? The bit of maple syrup, bit of cayenne pepper in warm water, and you just drink that 3 times a day. And oh my gosh, you lose weight because it boosted your metabolism or something. Who knows? But yeah, people going, GLP-1s, if you take them, then you're already on an aggressive diet, which is wrong, which I'll talk to you about with regards to this study. Likewise, people going, oh yeah, an aggressive diet requires willpower, and so that's why it will fail versus GLP-1, which again is wrong, mostly. So yeah, super interesting. And obviously we very recently, I'm recording this in December 2025, we recently had a Mac Nutrition Live conference where we had Dr. Adrian Brown come and speak on GLP-1s, which was a phenomenal presentation and doesn't touch on really what I'm going to touch on today. But again, I know how much people are interested in this. I'll maybe discuss, he was asked some questions and he said, look, we just don't have the data. And there is lots of that. There's with some of the binge eating disorder work that we're involved in, there's lots of discussions in the multidisciplinary team, the dietitians, the psychiatrists, and then the practitioners around, who are mostly new certified nutritionists, around what are we doing here? How are we coaching these people who have binge eating disorder, who are also maybe being prescribed or self-prescribing GLP-1s, who are wanting to lose weight, but really it's such a hugely complicated discussion around, okay, should we be learning, because it's happening so much, the best way to support someone with binge eating disorder who insists on losing weight and using a GLP-1. And yeah, it's a really complex area that I do want to touch on with the nuance. So I guess I'll start this by saying, if you are listening to this and you have this visceral, good word, visceral reaction to the use of GLP-1s, you're the problem. I say that with love because I get it. I get if you're some sort of practitioner whose livelihood depends on people needing you to lose weight, then you're going to feel challenged by that. It's a bit like dildos and vibrators. Initially, when you're young and naive and stupid, you're like, oh no, they replace me. I guess I'm talking about a certain gender here, maybe, or sexual orientation. But anyway, you need to realize that they're not your enemy, they're your ally. They make things better. Anyway, off topic. I get that there's that visceral reaction. I also understand that some people are like, yeah, people are lazy. They're just taking the easy way out. I had some of these comments, maybe not this nasty, but kind of going, again, these are just sort of naive people going, we can tackle obesity. I think the words she used were with education engagement. I didn't really know what she meant by engagement exactly. Obviously, it's ambiguous, but we can't. It's wrong. We've tried. None of the data supports that we can sort obesity through education. I would love it if we could, because I'm really fucking good at education and scientific communication, and I love teaching, but it's not possible to just do it through that. And GLP-1s are fantastic. Now, I'm not saying that a huge amount of people aren't misusing them, because they are. And I'm not saying that there's not every good thing gets ruined by some people. You can apply that to so many things in life. But in this instance, GLP-1s in and of themselves, if we take emotion out of it, are a wonderful medical advancement that can really help people. And I have some interesting ideas around how maybe they could be used a bit better, and where aggressive dieting fits into this, and where, sorry, someone's calling me, and where aggressive dieting outperforms GLP-1s really quite significantly, with less cost, with less side effects, with probably better outcomes. And obviously, I'm going to say this, is my aggressive diet blueprint is infinitely better than any aggressive diet type protocol that I have ever, and I've read all of the research, ever seen in the research. And there is very good reason for that, because in research, we are trying to control variables, whereas my blueprint is made based on all of the research I've read, all of the nutritional knowledge I have, to create something that works best for people. So it's the kitchen sink approach. Everything that works, we will obviously do. Whereas in research, we just do one thing and control everything else and see if it helps. So you have to draw from lots of different research. And so this particular paper I'm talking about today used a liquid calorie meal replacement type aggressive diet, which is the worst kind. It has the worst outcomes in terms of post-diet relationship with food, we'll call it. So binge tendencies, for instance. Likewise, people on these types of diets, and this wasn't measured in this study, but based on the body of literature that we have, we see people who have greater preoccupation with food because they're not eating food. And so when we compare a sort of liquid versus a food-based aggressive diet protocol, we go, people who are eating food are less obsessed with food, their hunger's lower, and people on the liquid diet don't fare well during. They still fare very well in terms of the outcome of weight loss, obviously, in the short term, but long term, not great. And unfortunately, this study is one of those, but we can still take great things from it. So without further ado, I'll actually talk about the study. And I guess I'm glad just before this, I recapped on all of these comments on my Instagram from so long ago, because it was wild to me that people believe that using these GLP-1s are leading to these insanely low calorie intakes. Like with some people they are, but the literature shows it's something like, and again, in this day and age, we're moving forward and forward, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, which isn't necessarily available for use, at least in the UK. It's still being researched. And the research is showing that the calorie reduction using these is somewhere in the range of like 20 to 25%, all the way up to maybe 40, 45. I think I've seen a study like 47% calorie reduction. Now, with an aggressive diet protocol, bear in mind, my blueprint is phenomenal. It's the best. My blueprint comes with a very, I'm going to call it advanced calculator that does this on a personal level, whereas in studies, everyone's lumped into the same boat. So the level of calorie restriction when you do my blueprint is very different to maybe a study. But in the studies, we're talking, the other small issue in studies is that they do these dietary recalls with patients or food diaries. And I have got it here actually. In the average body weight of the subjects in these studies are like, or they range from like 103 to 120 odd kilos. And the diet diary came back as like their energy intake was 1,600 calories a day. Now, that's obviously, again, based on 3 to 5 decades of research, we know is underreporting to the order of 500 to 1,000 calories underreporting, and maybe higher if we just look at the very basics of this in terms of if we just chucked these individuals' details into the Harris-Benedict formula and we looked at roughly what they might be burning on a daily basis to maintain their weight, we're talking 3,000 calories probably, plus or minus, not 1,600. Now, in the study, it's like, it caused a calorie reduction of whatever. But obviously, the calorie reduction from true maintenance calories is much, much greater than they are reporting. But if we got a good idea, maybe in this study, we're seeing a reduction of those higher numbers, 40, 45, 47% calorie reduction. Whereas with an aggressive diet, you'll see 70%-ish reduction. And that's obviously purposeful versus subconscious. And that's one of the big discussions that we need to have, and maybe we'll have during this podcast, because people, again, don't know what they're talking about. But it's that whole thing of a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. So you've got people going, the reason GLP-1s is the best is because no one can do aggressive diets because it requires willpower, because they don't understand what an aggressive diet is, and they don't understand the half a century's worth of research that there is around aggressive diets, and that the whole reason that they are the best and they do work way better than moderate deficits is because they don't require willpower. That's the point. And they remove the food noise. That's why they work so well. And that's why we see such greater, just hugely better outcomes with aggressive diet type protocols in these situations than just your moderate deficits, which typically don't work at all in the populations we're looking at here. Anyway, this study, also what's interesting about this study, so they basically took individuals who had type 2 diabetes and were categorizable as being eligible for GLP-1 use or diabetes remission type diets. And so they took these individuals and they randomized them, which is quite cool, to 3 groups: an aggressive diet type protocol, a GLP-1 group, and a combination group. And this is, I think this is where they were really excited to do their study. And you can, when you read their discussion and introduction, they're like, this is the cool thing, because we know aggressive diets work, and we know GLP-1s are great for diabetes and are now being used as obesity medications. What about the combination? And now what's also interesting is they did a really fast increment in dosage in the semaglutide. And so semaglutide is like your Wegovy type Ozempic drug, to give it a name that you might have heard colloquially. And I don't know if I've got the details here. But the escalation, they started at the typical, if you know anything about this, you'll have heard 0.25 milligrams, and they did this rapid escalation. Now, there's an agreed protocol for the escalation, and you spend many weeks, 4 weeks on 0.25 milligrams, and then you gradually increase this up, and I believe it's up to 2.4 milligrams now, which is very high. And so in this study, I did take a quote where it said, I've adjusted it slightly, but rapid dose escalation was used in order to maximize exposure to the full dose to enable the fairest comparison between the interventions. Now, they didn't get up to 2.4 milligrams, but they did increase it very fast to basically go, we really want people on a really high dose of GLP-1 to compare it against aggressive diet, which is cool. I'm happy with that as someone who's on team AD, but I'm not. And I'll explain more why. And also the GLP-1 group was given some dietary advice. So this is, again, a nice part of this study because it was used. This was a single center study. So these are individuals who they want to give dietetic support to. So they're giving them advice on even like awareness around their satiety and how to eat. They talked about portion sizes, high fat foods, hydration. Like they gave them some good advice. They just didn't give them a diet plan. And this would be typical of normal clinical care. And then the aggressive diet type protocol was very low calorie across the board, 600 or so calories, liquid. And then they're allowed to eat some fruit to the order of 100 to 200 calories. So very restrictive, but total meal replacement. Again, all your vitamins and minerals. Now, the key thing here is 12 weeks long, this study, is that the weight loss, and they used DEXA, which is super cool because then we got measures of weight loss, fat mass loss, lean body mass loss. And the aggressive diet type protocol absolutely smashed the GLP-1 group out of the park by more than double the weight loss and double the fat loss. So straight away, when I did this post, which would win? If people did a marker of weight loss or fat loss, you were wrong if you chose GLP-1s. You were wrong if you chose semaglutide. You were also wrong if you chose tirzepatide. There was a few people commenting that. Nadolski made a joke. Or not a joke, but what's the word? Just very blunt, tirzepatide, full stop, like he wasn't entering the discussion. But again, tirzepatide, long-term, doing much better than semaglutide. But again, in this study, and if you look at the surmount papers and the percentage weight loss, like again, in this study, aggressive diet type protocol would still beat tirzepatide in the short term. What's really interesting, again, we've got the fat mass losses, and there's some discussion around GLP-1s and muscle loss. Now, I brought this up at the conference, but as far as I understand it, and no one's ever said anything to the contrary, who's well educated in this area, but there is this like worry that somehow these GLP-1s are leading to a lot of muscle loss. Now, this does not seem to be a direct mechanistic effect. However, if people are dropping their calories, if they're not exercising, particularly resistance training, any reduction in calories is going to do this. But I made the point, this study suggests this a bit, again, from an observational point of view of what clients feel. One of the very, very common, and this was a huge, I think I wrote down here, like 40%, almost 50% of the GLP-1 group did report nausea only one or two people had to drop out, or one person had to drop out and one person couldn't go up to the maximum dose because of that particular side effect. But when you feel sick, but you still have that drive to eat a little bit, you still have some hunger, you still have the, habitual nature of eating, that it's dinner time, I need to eat. But then, I feel a bit sick. I feel a bit nauseous. Feel a bit, don't really fancy much. And I get this particularly when I aggressive diet, not nauseous, but just like, I'm not really hungry, but I need to eat, which is one of the absolutely amazing things about the protocol, is you are making purposeful choices, not subconscious, like when you're using a GLP-1, but a conscious choice of, I'm dieting, I'm choosing these types of foods, these are the foods I should eat, and you're eating a protein. Whereas when it's subconscious of just, I'm taking this thing and now it's fixing everything for me, there needs to be another step to that, which lots of people are doing, and lots of people on my Instagram sort of saying it changed my life and I did these things, and actually before I went on the GLP-1 I already lost 30 kilos, and some great comments. But this is one of the problems, is the most satiating, least easy to eat, palatable. When we talk about food palatability, encouraging you to eat those things, carbohydrates and fat combined foods are much easier to eat if you just want to eat anything. So we can see in this study, despite a much higher calorie intake in the GLP-1 group, they ate less protein. And we're only talking to the order of a few grams, but relatively we're talking a large percentage of their calories less protein. It's something there. If you are someone who is coaching someone using a GLP-1, if you're working with these individuals, there is a need to have these discussions and consider some of these things, and consider nice tasting protein sources, not some dry chicken breast or some whatever. And this is a big reason that we have such a big emphasis on the recipes within the Aggressive Diet Blueprint, and all different types of protein sources, again, from vegan to vegetarian to omnivorous or carnivorous, animal sources of protein, and again, the different formats from liquid to solid, etc. But again, it's an important area for us to look at if people are just self-administering, going through online pharmacies, whatever, potentially not giving truthful information to get hold of these GLP-1s, and then not paying attention to their diet and just taking them. Yes, this is why some people out there are hating on GLP-1s unnecessarily, instead of, quote unquote, hating on just people being silly. People are dumb. Humans are dumb. They do silly things. That's fine. It's not the fault of GLP-1s. Cool. Yeah, I read that. Escalation. They've given all that food advice. Yeah, the fat loss within the aggressive diet group being like the weight loss 13.1 kilograms versus 6. Again, this was another thing that people were going, could it be a tie? Or someone was like, oh, why not use both? And it's like, yeah, why not? And the reason is because it's no better. And so the study showed that the combination of aggressive diet plus GLP-1 showed no greater results in fat loss, weight loss, fat loss, insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity. One other thing. Oh, so the one really cool thing that did happen, which is the whole reason that GLP-1s really are around and became so super famous, is because they're fantastic for diabetes. And so the one thing that we saw is the way that the GLP-1 working is it's acting on an increased release of insulin. So the first phase response is one of these key things that falls away when we start to become insulin resistant and get type 2 diabetes. So the beta cell function in the GLP-1 group was improved, and therefore this acute insulin response was greater. But that's a no-brainer, because that's literally what the drug does. And at the same time, reduces appetite, reduces gastric emptying speed. But on all those other factors, there was no benefit of the combination. So for weight loss, for fat loss, for lean body mass retention, no better, no improvement. And here's a cool one, no greater adherence. So that's the kicker, right? People going, so there was more dropouts in the GLP-1 group than there was in the aggressive diet protocol. So everyone out there going, and the reason is people are like, I've tried aggressive dieting, I couldn't do it. You did it wrong, dummy. People going, yeah, I upped my cardio and I dropped my calories and I couldn't sustain it. It's like, that's because you're an idiot. Who starts jogging and eating less at the same time? I know a lot of people have done that, but that's the old school silly narrative of eat less, burn more, great, let's see what happens, great, your body hates you, your appetite's through the roof, you feel fatigued, you get sick, blah, blah, blah. This is why you actually listen to someone who knows what they're talking about, work with a professional, or obviously the Aggressive Diet Blueprint I created for general population individuals. Obviously, half the people who are signing up are all practitioners because they want to use the protocol with their clients and getting amazing results. But lots of people just not understanding what aggressive diet is. It's not a fad diet. It's not just randomly dropping calories. It's not a protein-only diet. It's not fasting. So again, I created the protocol to be as perfect as the current body of evidence to date allows us to be, with the calculators that helps people hit the exact figure that they should be for their anthropometrics at that time. Again, and then it's so much more in terms of a personal coaching tool, in terms of the psychology of it. There's a huge section around weight loss maintenance, which I will talk about a bit with regards to GLP-1s, because I don't know if I'll bother doing another podcast. Maybe I will, but I do want to leave you with some sort of further thought-provoking information. And I know there's lots of practitioners and academics, etc., that listen to my podcast, and maybe some researchers who can go away and do some of this stuff. So there was all these benefits of the aggressive diet type protocol that weren't improved by adding in the GLP-1. There was no greater adherence. There was no greater weight loss, no greater fat loss, no greater lean body mass retention, which we wouldn't expect anyway. But we did. So for individuals who are wanting to lose weight and have type 2 diabetes and maybe want to get into remission, what was interesting in this study was that the patients had diabetes for 6 or more years. So a long time. And so at that point, we do see a much lower likelihood of remission and staying in remission. And so if we can increase pancreatic beta cell function, that's fantastic. And GLP-1s are going to do that. So that's fantastic. And that is why a combination would be great. Now, the second reason I think a combination of sorts might be fantastic is, and I talk loads about this in the blueprint in terms of lifelong weight maintenance and a compassionate approach to lifelong weight maintenance and a multi-phasic approach to dieting so that some habits are built. One of the other silly comments, I shouldn't go off topic, shall I? No, I'm going to not, but remind me. I'm going to highlight it on my screen. One of the other, where was it? Yeah, there we go. So going through this multi-phasic approach so that you do learn some of these habits, and talking about, again, I was quite proud, and again, people are like, wow, flipping it, there should be a course in itself, that the weight loss maintenance section, because that's a whole new course of learning, a whole different focus, the focus around many psychological approaches and psychological tools that are required, and talking about living a value-driven life and understanding some of the different therapies that are actually evidence-based to help you do those things. But anyway, so that was a bit of a whiz-stop tour that was part 9 of the blueprint, the final part. But again, the multi-phasic strategy, allowing people to have testing some of these things. So we know that as people diet, we're going to get some metabolic adaptation. Are there some ways? I think yes, we can get around that. The evidence shows quite quite obviously there are ways we can get around that, and that's included. Are there ways that the research doesn't show that I think you can? Yes, there are other ways that I make a strong case for. But again, then with the psychology side of things, there's a positive weight regain calculator that some of you will have heard me talk about. And again, making people understand that they have to regain some weight post-dieting. That is a categorical fact that must happen. And no one coaches this. I was on Steve Hall's podcast and we talked about this loads. And the only place it is coached is within the bodybuilding world, where people are getting down to single-digit levels of body fat percentage. No one else realizes that even if you're dieting down to 15%, 20%, you need to regain weight after your diet period. Fact, end of story. But then talking about where are you going to live? So some of the research from Kevin Hall's lab looking at the increase in the signals around appetite, and can you live at this lowered body weight long term with the habits and the magnitude of effect that those habits have on lowering your energy intake. I'm going to eat more protein. I'm going to eat some protein every meal. Great. What's the actual magnitude of that habit, and what's the magnitude of your physiology screaming at you, eat more food all the freaking time? And also, oh, you've eaten that meal. Guess what? Before you lost these 10 kilos, that would have made you full, but not anymore. And that's the type of physiology that you're battling against. Now, my wondering is there a case for the weight loss side of this from an aggressive diet type protocol, or my aggressive diet protocol being the best one? But then long term, is there a consideration around a GLP-1 and maybe not having to go up to those high doses and not have to be on them as long and whatever? And you're actually learning, what's my GLP-1 dose for weight loss maintenance long term, rather than having to escalate the dosage up for the weight loss and then escalate it because you still haven't got your weight loss of where you want it to go, because it's not doing the same job that an aggressive diet type protocol would. But then also then having to very cleverly and specifically titrate that dose down with the complexities that brings along with it to find out where you are able to live and maintain your body weight. So one thing that I will say at this point is you can go on my website. I feel like just go study-nutrition.com. And if you can remember this, then do /aggressive-diet-blueprint. I should probably check that. I think that's what it is. Study-nutrition.com / it's not bringing it up. Aggressive-diet-blueprint. Look at that knowledge. Oh, I think if you then scroll to the bottom, somewhere anyway, there is a place. Oh yeah, get access to the free course area now. You can chuck your email in there and you'll get access to basically part 2, which will talk about some of the research in this area that I'm touching on, some of this increase in hunger. Just if you're interested, you can go and delve in a bit more, learn a bit more. There's like a whole free part 2. I basically, TLDR, too long didn't read session that you can go and get. I'm also thinking of releasing for free, just because it's nice for people to get educated. It also generates more discussions. I want to have some discussion with some researchers on this, but around eating disorders, because my findings in that area have been eye-opening even to me. Long-term GLP-1s, aggressive diet, could be a serious key. So one of these, just something I want to say. Yeah. So pills don't change habits was one of the comments, and various other things. It, again, for some people, they do. People talk about food noise all the time. And I think just for individuals who have maybe gained body fat through their own fault, right? Just laziness. And then they're like, oh yeah, then I manned up and got to the gym and did the work and ate the protein, the vegetables, and I lost the weight. So why the hell can't anyone else do this? And it's because you were just a lazy gimp. And that's the only reason you got to where you were. Whereas other people are not lazy. And that for them, it was literally a case of their physiology, their genetics making them go that way. And again, if you are naive and uneducated to think that this is just a willpower discussion, I really, with love but slightly condescendingly, encourage you to just stay teachable, do a bit more reading, even listen to the podcasts I've done around genetics. If you're listening to this, if you've got this far, you probably, hopefully, maybe respect me enough to go, knows what he's talking about. Maybe I will question my own understanding. Like, I'm not pointing you out in a crowd. This is the wonderful thing about podcasts, because you can sit there and change your mind and then come out and be like, yeah, I knew this all along, and tell people in your circle. Whereas if I just put you on display and was like, you're a moron, it would be sad for you. And you would then defend the status quo and you would not be teachable. So hopefully you're listening to this and you can go, okay, I'll actually go and look into this. Why am I wrong? Cool. So GLP-1s do not cause an aggressive diet. An aggressive diet does not require willpower. Do you remember I said that? The adherence was better. There was no dropouts in the aggressive diet group. I don't know if I put down some of the more details about this. But again, adverse effects in the GLP-1 were greater. There was more dropouts. Again, there weren't a great number of dropouts in any groups anyway. But again, this whole idea that the easy option, or the option that if there's food noise, you have to do it. The whole point of an aggressive diet type protocol is it also removes the food noise. That's why it's so successful. That's why you have so many. I don't know how many hundreds of testimonials I have now, which again, I should be publishing, but I'm terrible at marketing, etc. Of just, I cannot believe it. And again, everyone who came to my seminars and they were like, no, like, I'm going to do it, but I know you're wrong. This isn't just me. I'm a foodie. I'm a relatable personal trainer because I love food and I'm always hungry, and I don't push people to be skinny. I just want them to be strong and healthy and blah, blah, blah. And then they try it and they're like, oh my God, you were right. I'm not hungry. I'm eating a third of the calories I was, and I'm not hungry. And I'm also sleeping well. I'm recovering, and I can do the training that you recommend. Again, within the blueprint, I have all of the exercise and training stuff that you should be doing alongside it. Also, just to say on the cost front, if you're anyone who's paying for this, whether you're Australia, America, in the UK through a private prescription or whatever, the thing I want to say is, like, lifetime access. I'm recording this, like I said, in December. I have a December sale on for the blueprint, and I'm giving away 5 months of community access. So you're getting the coaching and the question and the social support, which we know is an evidence-based strategy for improved outcomes. 5 months in the aggressive diet community for free, as well as an insanely big discount on the blueprint. Lifetime access, because another thing we know about lifelong weight maintenance is that a strong correlate of doing that is the ability to revisit the program at any given time. So there you go. What do you get with lifetime access? Again, all of these things I'm saying are referenced, statistically significant, published, peer-reviewed research. This isn't just me going, we know that it's a correlate. This isn't like you going, we know that men are more, like this, just making rubbish up, like better drivers or whatever, and that's based on your single opinion of you and your family or you and your sister or whatever. This is literally research. But anyway, so the price comparison, like, this study was 12 weeks. The 12-week cost of paying for a GLP-1 is going to be the same as the lifetime access to my blueprint. So just think about that. This isn't me trying to stop people going on GLP-1s. Because lots of people won't be wanting to go on GLP-1s, but I'm just also telling you how unbelievable the cost of basically my life's coaching work is. And if you haven't got it, you're crazy. If it's something that you want to do, if you're spending money on anything else, just consider how crazy that is that I'm offering that. I think that's basically everything I wanted to discuss. I did also want to say that someone said that an aggressive diet might cause weight gain if someone has PCOS because it causes stress on the body. All I've got to say to that, I don't know. It's just lol. Just, you should probably stop thinking for yourself and just let other people, maybe go to ChatGPT and go, I need you to make decisions for me in life because I somehow believe that a body can create matter and energy out of nothing. So you're living on a different planet. Odd comment. Anyway, I don't even know where to go with that. That was just one of the other things I wrote down. I think that's everything. That was better than I expected, actually. I thought that was going to be super short and boring, but I don't think it was. Hopefully you agree. I'm just seeing if I may. I've got this stuff down here, but it's all, yeah, cool. If you have any questions, fire them away on my Instagram. I'll do a post about this podcast being up. I'll go on to the comments of that post and I'll tag you all and be like, you can go listen now. I finally got it done. But yeah, I want people, it is every time I see a GLP-1 discussion, I just see so many people who are too busy talking instead of listening. And they're too busy having an opinion instead of learning. And so many of you, and I say this with love because lots of you that commented, I like you and I think you're good people, but I think you should probably put your ear to the ground a bit more on these topics of GLP-1s. And maybe I will do a podcast to try and just talk about how you should be seeing these. I made that sort of joke about don't see them as cheating. If you like, it's probably a good analogy, although I've not given it a deep thought like I would normally on these things. But if you think that using a vibrator is cheating, and we're talking about a vibrator to achieve orgasm, you're probably the same kind of person that thinks GLP-1 is cheating. It's not cheating. It's, again, people use so many different drugs. You've got people out there using anabolic steroids and like pharmaceutical grade metabolism boosters to look a certain way on Instagram and then going, oh, you're cheating using GLP-1. Are you actually mental? Again, just everything in life. All of these things are just personal and should be informed decisions. And it's not for you to judge someone based on what they're doing or why they're doing it. People, I want to have a drink of alcohol to stress relieve on it. Like a lot of people, I know it's become a bit more popular to judge people who drink anything at all. But again, most people are not judging people for just consuming a drug because they enjoy it and it relaxes them, it makes them chatty or whatever. And again, all of these different drugs can be abused. But it's a wonderful medical advancement. And anyway, that's not what this podcast is supposed to be about. This podcast is supposed to force you to buy my Aggressive Diet Blueprint. No, it's supposed to highlight this really cool study and to give you an answer that lots of you got wrong. So hopefully you found some good education. The author is called Anyam, Anyam. Wherever I post this, I'll post the PubMed ID, etc. for you, so you can go and read it if you want to. But yes, I think that's everything. If you're listening to this in December, quick, go and consider whether you want to get the Aggressive Diet Blueprint now. You can pay in installments. Like, it's so cheap. £50, like less than 100 Australian dollars, 90 Australian dollars or something a month. 75 US dollars. I'm just like a human calculator. No, I don't even know what the exchange rates are, but those are roughly the right amounts. And again, lifetime access. You can. That's not ongoing. You can pay it off in, I don't know, it's 6 installments or 11 installments or something. I can't remember exactly. It's all on the website. It's all there. But you have to click it. Lots of people, as soon as they find out they can do it in installments, they're like, oh my God, I'm buying it. Amazing. And I'm like, how did you not know this? It's right there. But obviously we just display the full price because that's how you should think in life, not how much something is a month. And I never charge extra for people paying installments because I think that's not a good way to be. We don't do that for MNU, nothing, even though it obviously comes with extra costs and issues for us. But anyway, I will stop. I hope you've enjoyed. Those of you who love having me inside you, in your ears, I hope you've enjoyed it. Having me in your ears again. I'm going to try and get some more podcasts done over the next few months on a few different topics, key topics around artificial sweeteners, lots of stuff on that. Metabolic rate and various different things. Lots of questions have come in on my website where you can click and make suggestions. Hopefully some call out stuff on some of the terrible menopause rubbish information and misleading stuff that's out there by some of the menopause gurus. So yeah, cool. It's good to see you back. Much love. Until next time.